We are going to call the meeting to order. Is there anybody in the public that has any input on the work session agenda items? Yeah, see. Is there anybody here that would like to give public input on the work session agenda items? Would you like to give public input on anything on the agenda today? Okay, you can get a copy of the agenda. Here. Oh, Deanne's getting one. No. Oh. We do not have, not for the work session, but please come back to our next board meeting, and then you can give input on non-agenda or no. Our next, that's okay, our next board meeting will be September 8th at 5:30 right here. Yeah, September 8th. Thanks for coming. Okay, seeing no agenda item input, we will move on to item number 3, the Office of Indian Education overview, and I'll let Dr. Knoll go ahead and introduce our speakers today.
So we will have 2 different pieces of information or reports that we will have for the board today during this work session, and then save time at the end for the committee reports of the board members. We will flip those 2. So we will start with the program and partnership that we have with Avera Healthcare and the Community Foundation. And we do like to and have been bringing these forward to highlight a lot of our community partnerships that we have, because our school district relies heavily on community partnerships to make sure that we meet the needs of all our students, staff, and overall school district. And so that first one, and I'll comment a little bit at the end as well, but we're just very pleased, and it's virtually a good news report to have this partnership in place. Kim Sharping, who is in charge of our student support services, will go through the information of this partnership with you. So Kim.
Thank you, Dr. Knoll. Yes, and I recognize some of you at the table, but some of you I maybe have not had a chance to meet yet. So I'm Kim Sharping. I am always proud to say I'm a product of the Sioux Falls School District, and very fortunate that I get to come back and now work and serve in the district that I grew up in. So I've had a variety of roles. I've been a school counselor, I've been an assistant principal, most recently principal at Patrick Henry Middle School, and now as of July 1st, I started as the coordinator of student support services in the Office of Indian Education, which we'll hear about in a little bit. But what that means is I get to work hand in hand with our school counselors, our social workers, our homeless liaisons, as well as our Office of Indian Education and those liaisons, just providing supports and resources to families to ensure that students have what they need to be successful in school. So just as I was coming on board this spring, we were presented by members of the Sioux Falls Area Community Foundation that they had an anonymous donor that really had a passion and a heart for providing mental health services to students, and wanted to be able to extend the services that we have in our Sioux Falls School District. And so that was kind of an exciting time for me, just coming on board and being able to dream big about what additional services could look like. So a team of us came together and really looked at currently what do our counseling services look like for students under the current model, and if we were able to dream big, what potentially could we extend that to. So just a quick overview of what our current services look like. We have counselors in every building. We serve, approximately over 24,000 students in our district, and so when we break that down students to counselor ratio, we have an average of 356 students to 1 counselor. And our governing body, our professional organization, is the American School Counselor Association. They recommend 250 students to 1 counselor. So you can see Our counselors are working hard. They, if you have any experience with a school counselor, you know that they wear many hats in the school and they are just an integral part of the team. So specifically our school counselors, their role might vary from building to building and based on the needs, but in general, they are in charge of the academic planning. At middle and high school, they are really involved in scheduling for students. They are always collaborating with staff, families, administrators as part of that support system for students. They often provide short-term individual counseling as well as group counseling on a variety of different topics. They also provide some of that just on-the-spot de-escalation when they have a student that maybe just needs some emotional regulation strategies. They provide classroom guidance and implementation of our social emotional learning curriculum, as well as that career and post-secondary planning. And then we often have students that maybe need something a little bit more ongoing, long-term type therapy. That's when our school counselors will refer out. And we are really fortunate that we have 3 entities that we use regularly and partner with us in the Sioux Falls School District. So we use Lutheran Social Services, Southeastern Behavioral Health, as well as Avera as our partners, so that when we have students that maybe need some additional therapy beyond what the school counselor can provide, we're able to make those referrals to those partners. So when we were approached with the opportunity to expand our services, we really thought in an ideal world, what would this look like? We looked at a model out of Hennepin County where they have what's called the embedded school-based mental health counseling. And basically that entails hiring master's level certified therapists that are embedded within the schools. And the role of that therapist would be to provide that ongoing mental health support within the building and be able to promote just that consistent relationship of having the same therapist in the building, working with students one-on-one and with families. And the key to that is that they really are part of the school community. They get to build that strong relationship with the faculty, with families. When a team is coming together and saying, what can we do for the student, that therapist could be part of that team in helping with some of that problem solving. And so also just providing resources and training for staff as we look at just those wraparound services. So we looked at the framework and then talked about just what partnerships we already have and where we could enhance what we have. And we started with Washington High School, already had a partnership with Avera Family Wellness, and we sometimes see an increased need out of other or varying schools. And so we looked at Washington and then who are the feeder schools to Washington. And that included Whittier Middle School and then down to Cleveland Elementary, Rosa Parks, and Terry Redland. And so those were the 5 schools that agreed to pilot this project. And so this will be a 3-year pilot with Avera Family Wellness. Each of those schools will have an allocated therapist that will work with a caseload of approximately 20 to 25 students. And again, that's in conjunction with Avera Family Wellness and Avera Behavioral Health. We're fortunate that we have some of our partners with us today. So I do want to recognize Avera Family Wellness, and Heidi Thomas is here from Avera, and she is just going to say a few words about the partnership from their end. You want to? Okay, great. You can say
Thank you. Thank you. Well, my name is Heidi Thomas. I am a clinical social worker and licensed therapist, and I have the privilege of leading the Avera Family Wellness Program. I've been with Avera for almost 4 years now. And again, thank you, Kim and Dr. Nold, for this opportunity today to share more about this unique opportunity to collaborate as a community with our healthcare partner through Avera and the generous anonymous donor. It is a privilege to be here today. As Kim described already about the program, we will be serving 125 students this next year and for the ongoing 3.5 years of this pilot program through those 5 schools that she mentioned. 3 are elementary and 2 are that middle and high school level. And those schools are identified because they're feeder schools into Whittier and Washington, and it's really important for us to have an opportunity to really follow and kind of data track these students along the way to confirm what we believe will be true in 3.5 years, and that's that we will see improved attendance, improved social emotional learning, and really just enhance that mental health well-being of our students in the community at those schools. Let's see here. What we do know about mental health programming and embedding these therapists through Avera is that it really removes the barriers for accessing mental health care. A lot of our families struggle with transportation. They struggle with going to another appointment before or after school or pulling their child out during the school day for these services. So we're really excited and hopeful that this will remove a lot of those barriers by having that therapist be exclusively in the school Monday through Friday during those school hours, meeting with children during the school day. We also look forward to that ongoing collaboration with parents and teachers and other support staff in all of these schools. And again, what we know about mental health is that it's extremely important. We see this also as a way to provide that early intervention and support that whole student through the implementation of this program with their social, emotional, and mental health well-being. This initiative reflects the community's commitment to supporting the whole child academically, socially, and emotionally, and as a leader in behavioral health, Avera has been doing this for 6 decades, and we're just really honored to have this opportunity. As Kim mentioned, Avera has had a strong partnership with the Sioux Falls School District over the years and through the Avera Family Forums, and that is a way to continue to provide ongoing education to families and students, as well as through the Avera Family Wellness Program. And we currently serve 6 elementary schools with family wellness and have for a number of years. In addition, our therapists that will be at these 5 school sites will also be providing supportive services at staff meetings and really understanding the individual and unique needs of each school. So we foresee psychoeducation to be presented to staff at staff meetings or teacher in-service work days to better support staff. And then we also envision some small group type work and maybe even some parent support groups after school hours for the families that are enrolled in these services. Long-term, this program could serve as a blueprint for expansion, and we're really hopeful that after this 3.5-year pilot, we will be able to continue to provide these services. And again, this partnership just demonstrates the power of community collaboration with schools, health systems, donors, and families working together to support that whole student's well-being. Are there any questions at all?
Yeah.
I don't really have a question, but first I'd just like to commend Avera and the Sioux Falls Area Foundation for stepping up and providing this much needed service. It will be great to have this in our schools. You know, I'm kind of greedy, I want more, so you know, I would love all of our students to have that opportunity, but to be able to pilot it and get some data to see the effect that you have will be great for us to look at. I know when we look at our ratio of counselors that our elementary numbers probably make our overall caseload look good, especially when you look at our high school numbers. And any help that you provide those counselors with some of these kids that really have those mental health struggles will really be appreciated. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We're really privileged and honored to be a part of this.
My question is probably more for Kim. Can you speak at all to the similarities or differences with the PATH program that's already in place?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, we have the 3 different entities that we utilize in terms of those support services that we refer out to. LSS PATH is one of those, as well as Southeastern Behavioral, and they've been really great partnerships for us. The PATH program in particular works with 10 buildings, and so when you think about, this is with 5 buildings, and so there's enough need to spread the wealth around all of the district, but they provide very similar services. I think the one key difference with this particular program is that it's a full-time therapist housed within the building Monday through Friday.
And the therapists will be employees of Avera, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. And then are there services throughout the summers then planned?
That's a great question. This is a brand new program, and so we're all as a team just working together to think carefully about what that summer piece could look like. Several of the staff that I have hired are they're all considered full-time. Several of them will be working exclusively full-time during the 9 months of the school year, and then working 1 day a week during the summers. And then I have a couple staff in this program that will be working full-time during the summers. And we do intend to work with each school on an individual basis to determine what that summer programming could look like, which schools are remaining open, which are closing, or, and just kind of shuffling and reorganizing and structuring that time over the summer. So I don't have any definitive information I can share on that yet, but I can tell you that we do intend to continue services throughout that summer and to really meet the needs of the students that we're working with.
Right. It's always exciting to see what can happen when community partners and generous donors in our communities come together to help our schools. So I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to just follow up with that because I also want to recognize the Sioux Falls Area Community Foundation and their partnership with the donor. We have Jody Otten here with us today from the foundation. Jody, did you want to say a few words as well? Thank you, Heidi.
I did write my thoughts down, or you get the full large cup of coffee instead of the little espresso version, packed full of gratitude and excitement. But I could talk about this for a long time. First, thank you all for this opportunity and for all you do to support staff and families and students, of course, in our community. So on behalf of the Sioux Falls Area Community Foundation and our generous donor, thank you. Both are so pleased with the collaborative spirit of Dr. Knoll, Dan Conrad, Kim Sharping, as well as that of their predecessors, Dr. Stavum and Patty Lake Torbert. We look forward to sharing our donor's name as soon as details are finalized, and we have full permission to do so. And Kim alluded to this previously, but what I can share is that they have a deep passion for kids, especially those struggling with mental health. Part of my role in this process has included the opportunity to meet with so many agencies and important community key players in this space that are already doing amazing things. And again, as already has been alluded to, also those partnerships remain super valuable to students. For this pilot project, our district has selected Avera. Again, on behalf of the foundation and our donor, our gratitude overflows to Avera and their therapists for so quickly rising to the challenge, with a special thanks to Heidi Thomas for all that she has already invested. We are super excited about this program that's modeled after an evidence-based program in Minnesota's Hennepin County that was started in a handful of schools 20 years ago and now has expanded to 250 schools. So they've showed that sustainability and all of that. As a former educator, I do have a closing visual, a primetime 2, if you will. So questions have been asked, what makes this different? These are both beautiful. A key difference between them, this one has roots, and these beautiful flowers do not. So in a couple of weeks, these flowers will have faded away. This plant has roots. Thankfully, I've kept it alive for a while. But so a difference, if it helps to kind of imagine, the therapist is rooted in the schools. That when the therapist goes to work, the therapist goes to their school. So the therapist is rooted there, part of the community, part of the culture, get to know students, staff, families. And the intent is that the students will grow deeper roots of resilience as part of this program, with one more caring adult rooting for them. So it's about the roots that really set this program apart. And in education, the question always comes back to what's best for students. And so I'm just thrilled that this is, I think, a big part of that answer. So thank you.
Any questions for?
I will say that we were very pleased when it was presented from the Community Foundation to come in to look at an opportunities and to be able to go through, and Patty Lake Torbert and Kim Sharping both then worked very closely together with Mr. Conrad to figure out what would that look like for us. And we've known for years through different models that we can have those individuals be certified so that they don't move as often, that consistency for kids. And we looked at, we have great relationships with Southeast Behavioral Health, the PATH program, because they send 50 plus different people to come into our schools and help students, always with parental permission, always with parental permission. They sign off on that. They want their child to be able to help to see somebody. But this partnership with Avera is truly going to take that to a next level to see what we can do. And it's one more opportunity just to highlight how much our community supports public education, the things that they do for public education. And so we continue to bring those things forward so people know that there's people out in our community that love to help the Sioux Falls School District. So we appreciate the partnership with the Community Foundation and with Avera and the work that's going to happen that way to help our kids. So we thank them for that. So thank you.
Thank you.
And the illustration was incredible. Our second report that we have here today will be with the Office of Indian Education, and that will be presented. So we will go through it and have that, and then be able to go to questions after that. So we will open it up. Ms. Mokumag.
Mitakuyapi, Washtenapi, Chiusapi, Chateau Nagamachiapi, Kishto, Shichanga Lakota Mie Kishto. Hello, my relatives. I greet you with a good heart and shake your hand. My name is Anna Brokenleg, and I am an enrolled member of the Rosebud Sioux Tribe. I started my teaching career with the Sioux Falls School District back in 2007, and as an elementary teacher. So at Hawthorne Elementary, for those of you that are aware, part of my heart is always at Hawthorne, so I always have to include them in any introduction. I am also a product of the Sioux Falls School District, and again, it's always great to be able to come back and serve our community. I taught at Hawthorne for 14 years before I moved over to the Office of Indian Education and began working as an instructional coach and chairperson for that office. And this year will be my 19th year in the Sioux Falls School District, and I get to start as supervisor for the Office of Indian Education this year. So that's a little bit about my background, and the Office of Indian Education has been a part of my career since the beginning. I had the blessing of being asked to be on a curriculum review committee my first year teaching, and I've kind of just stayed involved with it ever since. I also am very closely personally connected with our office because I have two Native children that attend school in the Sioux Falls School District. I have a first grader and a fourth grader, although I often joke that I think my 9-year-old is going on 19, but I digress. So please feel free to jump in at any time during the presentation and ask questions. I'll do my best to answer them, and if I don't have an immediate answer, I'm sure I can find one for you. So our mission in the Office of Indian Education we have up here, and again, it's really to empower our Native students by connecting them to their culture, their history, and really focusing on those culturally relevant curriculum resources that are respectful, they're reliable, and that they have all of those connections. So as we go through Our different slides today will do kind of an overview of the different parts of our office, our student enrollment, our staffing, the budget, and other funding sources, the student outcomes that we're currently seeing, and then our present and future priorities for the Office of Indian Education. I think it's important to remember that when it comes to the instructional resources that we provide for students, that we're really thinking about this as their tier 1 instruction and the preventative, protective factors that it provides for our students. Our student enrollment current for last year was 1,756 Native students that were enrolled in 49 different federally recognized tribes. This also includes all students who have either a parent or a grandparent who are enrolled, so we can call that lineal descendancy. Those are all students that we have 506 forms on. This is the count that helps us with our Title VI federal grant. So that's the number that that grant is based off of. But overarchingly, when you look at Native students in the school district, we have had 2,202 was our high count for last year. And that includes any student whose family self-identified as American Indian, Alaskan Native, or 2 or more ethnicities, one of which included American Indian, Alaskan Native. The big takeaway here, I think, as a district is just that we're serving more students than we get any federal grant money for by quite a few hundred here. And also, so if you look at our population K through 12, it's about 9% of our student population. If you include pre-K through 21, that moves closer to 10% of our student population, which mirrors the state demographics of our Native Americans in the state as well. So enrollment trends over the last 4 years. Oh, see, it's very touchy. I know. I experienced the same thing. So our student enrollment trends over the last 4 years have essentially just had a steady increase, both in the number of students that we have those 506 forms on that are enrolled or have a parent or grandparent who is enrolled, and also for the students who self-identify. And so you can see those there on the chart. Some of you might have been familiar with our program by its previous name, the Native American Connections Program. The program and offerings are the same, but when I came on as instructional coach for our office, we had a conversation, collaborative conversation amongst all the teachers, and it made sense for us to center Indigenous language as a part of our programming. And so we renamed our programming Ocheti Shakoway Owanspe, which translates roughly to like 7 council fires classroom. And we'll do a little practice because everybody gets to learn to speak Lakota when they're around me. So it's Ocheti Shakoway Owanspe. It is still a mouthful to roll off the tongue, so we do have the abbreviation OSO still. So if you see the OSO abbreviation, it is there as a support for all involved. And so we currently have 23 with our new elementary school, elementary OSO facilitators. They are focused on curriculum writing and designing tools, videos, and lessons for students at the elementary level. In particular, they focus on lessons around Native Americans Day and the first Thanksgiving. Those were 2 areas where we had a lot of concerns from some of our Indigenous families about lessons historically that were being taught in schools. And so being able to have our OSO facilitators who have been provided with additional training and history, Ocheti Shakoway history and culture, allows them to design really appropriate culturally relevant lessons that those elementary teachers then know that they can rely on in their classroom. And so they also have a component of their extra pay, extra duty position. So these are full-time classroom teachers, librarians, counselors who take on the OSO facilitator position as an extra pay, extra duty. And then they also, at least once per quarter, but in some buildings more, do some kind of student contact activity, whether that's a OSO club or lunch bunches, different lessons and games they might help teach the whole staff to utilize with students, but they try to include that at least once per quarter in all of those elementary buildings. We also have 10 middle school and high school OSO and languages of the Ocheti Shakoway teachers. And they have a couple different components to their positions. In middle school and high school, we have OSO classes that are available as standalone courses. So in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, there is a standalone OSO class that's available to the Native students in those buildings. 6th grade focuses on creation stories. 7th grade focuses on a variety of topics stemming from pre-contact, but then connecting to current day issues and events. And then 8th grade is an overview of federal Indian policy. At the high school level, we offer OSO. It's typically taken in 9th grade, but can be taken any year in high school. That class is designed just for our Indigenous students, and it's a 1-credit elective course. In addition to that, we have a half-credit Indigenous Studies course, which is offered at the high school level that is open to any student in the Sioux Falls School District. And we also have languages of the Chetishakawin 1 and 2, which are both full-credit world language courses that are also open to all students in the Sioux Falls School District. The additional part of their position, besides being classroom OSO teachers, which was mandated years ago by a previous board, is case management. And so that's something that is unique to their position. So they have contact with every Native American student in their buildings. Whether they choose to take the OSO, Indigenous Studies, or language classes or not, those teachers case manage every single Native student in the building, and will try to have at least 1 to 2 meetings per quarter with every single student to check in. They can assist with any behavior concerns, academic concerns, attendance concerns, just supporting students and finding activities, connecting to schools. Really, they're just there as an additional support and a personal connection for all the students in those buildings. And we also, like all areas of the Sioux Falls School District, have a lot of wonderful partnerships in the community. Most recently, through our partnership with the Levitt and the Wokini Initiative from SDSU, we're able to bring one of the recent artists who performed at the All My Relations Festival, Mato Wayuhi, into our middle school OSO classes at Whittier Middle School. And so we've got just a brief snippet of his video so you can get a feel for what the room is like.
Within Native culture and Lakota culture, it's very much, there's a non-linear relationship between different generations. And so in order to kind of create that fluidity between just transference of like knowledge and wisdom and stuff like that, I think it's really important to stay connected with those who came before you and those who are coming next, because yeah, that's just how we've always been, you know? So I want to make sure that I'm being able to like show up for folks who are younger than me and want to pursue art and be creative and stuff. I want people to know what it is to be a Lakota person, a Lakota man in South Dakota, and I want them to see me for who I am.
So Mato was there for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade at Whittier the second day of school. They graciously allowed us in, even though it was day 2. The kids had a really great time and got to create a little song with him, each of the groups. So it was a great exposure and connection and partnership with them. And we were grateful that he came. He also, if you're familiar with the show Reservation Dogs, he did all the music for that show. So he is a Lincoln alumni. Yes, he's one of our own. So we love to bring him back, and he's always very gracious about spending time with our kids, providing music resources for some of the fine art lessons we did in the last few years. So he's a wonderful guy. We also have 2 Office of Indian Ed liaisons. They split the city, so east side, west side, and serve all of the schools K through 12 there. They work very closely with our social workers on attendance and really any barriers that families are having to school attendance, whether that's helping some of our RISE students connect with needs for diapers and wipes, or if it's helping with some food security issues. They do a wonderful job. They also are able to provide some limited emergency transportation for students when there is a need. And then we have our clerical in our office, the social workers that we work with, as I mentioned, and then now our administrator. We also are in the 2nd year now of our Indigenous Mental Health Initiative with in partnership with the high school counselors. And so we have one high school counselor at each building who has chosen to take the lead and work with students in the building to meet Indigenous mental health needs. So we're excited for that Avera partnership as well. And then we'll talk a little bit about just kind of the continuum of services that our office offers. So we have 3 events that we put on every year. We have our open house event, which is designed to help our families get ready for school. And it really is kind of a one-stop shop. They can do online enrollment if they need access to do online enrollments. Child nutrition is there. We have our liaisons for unhoused relatives if families need assistance with that. We also have a variety of vendors and community organizations. This year we had the USD Mobile Health Unit that came. CLC was there, mentor programs, and we were also able to provide 372 backpacks with our partnership with the Banquet and the SOS Project. And I think we ran out about 12:30, 1 o'clock backpacks. So we probably could have used more. This is also the event where many of our families pick up their vouchers, and we'll talk a little bit about how that's funded in just a moment. But the vouchers for every student that we have 506 forms on that are enrolled currently in the Sioux Falls School District, they can get a $30 voucher to help with school supplies to Lewis at the beginning of the school year. And we have our winter solstice event. This is, I think, one of our very fun community events that we're able to do. Every December we have it over there at Axtell Park, and it's really just a community-based gathering to help us build connections and positive relationships with our families. We're able to have a potato dance, which is a lot of fun. It was like Donna Marie was a champion of the potato dance a couple years ago, I believe. So I'm just saying, if you want to come, you can try to steal her crown this year. So. But it's a great time. And then we also, of course, have our 8th grade and senior honoring, which we have been blessed the last few years. We actually found when we combined our 8th grade and senior honoring that we had outgrown any of our high schools and district settings. And so through our community partnerships, we have been able to move that to the Washington Pavilion and have been there the last few years. And you can see some of the photos from the 8th grade and senior honoring kind of on either side here. We also are going to be in our 2nd year now of utilizing a public school proud grant that we were awarded for $5,000 2 years ago to help expand our ribbon project. And that project is designed to help ensure that our 8th grade students have an opportunity to either create or be gifted with a ribbon skirt to wear to the honoring. And then for our boys, we do medallions or ribbon shirts for them as well. We also provide Reclaiming Youth at Risk training for all of our OSO teachers. That is based on the book Reclaiming Youth at Risk, and it's steeped in Indigenous child-rearing philosophy. It's a strength-based strategies and training that we provide to teachers that allows them to respond to needs rather than reacting to things when they happen. And so we provide that staff for all of our new OSO staff in the district. We also have cultural field trips for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And depending on the year, we often send a small group to LNI to do some of the academic tests out there, which is the Lakota Nation Invitational, happens in December out in Rapid City. Then we have a couple different college events and visits that we do. We have the OSO Scholars Program through Augustana, where we have all of our 8th grade students who get to travel once to Augustana to tour the campus, get a little snippet of what university life might be able to offer them, explore a few of the different career paths that they have there. And then we're able to take our OSO students in 9th grade back 2 different times. They get a little more in-depth trip in 9th grade, get to learn more about how GPAs and scholarship opportunities play in to the possibilities of university experiences. And then we also, for our 11th and 12th grade students, invite them to attend Building Bridges, which is a program, an event that's done and put on by USD to help specifically Indigenous students think about bridging that experience from high school to college. So our funding for the Office of Indian Ed comes from 3 different sources. We have a small portion of our funding which comes from what we refer to as JOM, or the Johnson O'Malley. This is federal dollars, and it actually funnels through one of the tribes. So for us, it's a tribe within 50-mile radius, which is Flandreau. And so our JOM funds go to Flandreau First, they distribute them to us. It's not a ton of money, about $13,500 each year, and we use those to go towards supplies and purchase services, specifically some of those vouchers. So getting the resources directly into the hands of our families. And then we have our Title VI Indian Education Grant. We talked a little bit about how that student count is determined. And so our award for this year in that grant is $407,751. And that pays for one of our OSO teachers. It pays for one of our Office of Indian Liaisons, 0.88 of our clerical. It pays for a little bit of most of our social workers, but it works out to about 0.66 of 3. And then our 23 OSO facilitators are paid through this grant as well. We also use some of these funds to provide professional development for our teachers and then to provide scholarships for students who need them for GED, summer school, or that Summer Connections program for the 8th graders transitioning to high school. There's also a parent committee, which is comprised of 6 to 7 parents of Native students in our school district. That is a requirement of that Title VI grant. They help advise our office on programming and needs that they see within our school systems and the district overall. And then we have our Indian Education District funds, and you can see that amount on the board there. That covers the remainder of our OSO teachers, so the other 9 full-time teachers in the district, our indoor languages of the Oceti Sakowin teachers, our administrative staff, the rest of our clerical, and our other Office of Indian and Liaison all come out of those district funds. In addition to that, we've got our cultural programming and trainings, part of our field trips that is funded in part by this, our high school students that go to Lakota Nation Invitational and college visits. It helps pay for a small portion of some of that transportation. And then our middle school students, we talked a little bit about those field trips. That's kind of a combined effort between those 2 different funds. And our 6th graders go to Good Earth, 7th to Pipestone, 8th grade to the prehistoric village in Mitchell. Okay, so we're going to jump in now to some of the different statistics for our Native students in the district. And the top 3 lines are the state averages. The bottom 3 are Sioux Falls School District averages. And so you can see graduation rates. We have a fairly similar trend within the district as we have in the state. So if you kind of follow those along, and you can see here that there is one line for American Indian Alaska Native students. There's also another line for 2 or more ethnicities. So one of the things we know is that a lot of the students in that 2 or more ethnicities category are Native and something additional, but we don't know exactly how many, and so we kind of lose some students in that data piece there. And that's, yeah, go ahead. So we know who the students are in the sense that we can pull them on our case management lists. Where it gets to be a little difficult is when we want to track, for example, let's say academic data, and we want to include all the Native students, not the ones that only selected American Indian Alaska Native only. Then we lose some data in there. And so the deeper we can go as far as being able to pull some of those students out of the 2 or more ethnicity category, the better picture we're going to be able to get as far as graduation, academic progress, all those kinds of pieces within that 2 or more category. So we don't currently have that ability now, but that's something we're going to be working on. Yes. Yeah, and that's also what's required for state and national reporting. So it's not just an us problem, that's a problem across the state in tracking data, and also a national problem with tracking data because the requirements are 2 or more or American Indian Alaska Native. So that's a consistent kind of data issue across the board. We also have our high school completion rates. So these are always going to be a little bit better than our graduation rates because those have to be within that 4-year cohort. So these will also include students who got their GED and those who took longer than 4 years to graduate from high school. And again, you can see we stay fairly close to those state averages in most of those areas. These can jump around a little more from year to year because they do count any student who got it that year for that year. So it could be a kid who's 1 year out of that 4-year cohort, 2 years out of that 4-year cohort. Whatever year they actually finish it in is the year where they add it to the percentage. So that can be a little tricky to track. Yeah.
Question on if you're able to divide which schools have higher success rates, or even I'm thinking of like Joe Foss has predominantly Native American students finishing out their academic careers. So I'm wondering if you pull that down too, or if that's a separate report or it's not a report.
Yeah, we're working on some of that. We can see how many students are in those different programs. And so like when you think about where our students are placed, we're within about 20 students at all 4 of the high schools right now. We do have, when you think about our Native students making up just 9 or 10% of our student population, we do have a bit of an overrepresentation both in our behavior programs and in Joe Foss, the placement. And right now we don't have services like OSO services for specifically Joe Foss. Our high school teachers will try to get over there, reach out when they can, but they also have full caseloads in the buildings as well. So definitely an area where we're looking and thinking about how we can provide additional support for our students there. And then of course our attendance rates as well, you can see on the next slide. And again, this is broken down the same way. So you've got the state averages on the top and those on the bottom for the Sioux Falls School District. I know that you recently had a work session with our attendance liaisons, and I think you would find very similar things that come out when we talk about attendance and our Indigenous population. You know, different life events and things like that happening that impact attendance. I think there are 2 additions for our Native students that we aren't always aware of. One is the impact of our extended family structure. And so for most people, they think of their family as like their nuclear family and maybe a couple grandparents, a couple aunts and uncles, their parents, siblings. For Indigenous communities, we have a much larger extended network. So for example, my mother and all my mother's female sisters, but also all of her female cousins, and not just first cousins, but second and third cousins, those are also my mothers. On my dad's side, I have my father, but all of his male brothers, and then all of his male cousins, first, second, third, those are all like my father's. Above that, it gets a little easier because everybody's a grandparent. Below that, I share children with my sisters and female cousins. My brother's children are my nieces and nephews. Below that, it gets easier because everybody's a grandkid, right? But this is how we end up in situations where parents call the office and they're gone for their 5th grandmother's funeral. They really are gone for their 5th grandmother's funeral. It's just that they're viewing family in a different lens than a lot of our society does. And then in addition to that, we also have the impacts of historical and intergenerational trauma on our families. And so I would say that we deal with exponentially higher numbers of events of loss of family members. And I use my own as an illustration of that. So I have an aunt who lives in the reservation community, and she had 5 children. And of those 5 children, she only has 2 remaining. So she lost 1 to a drunk driving accident, 1 to suicide, and the other to domestic violence, all under the age of 25. So when you think about how that plays out for our kids and how many funerals they do have to go back for, or events that they're going back to their home communities for, they are dealing with it at a much higher rate than many other populations in our community. So I think that's something that we have to consider and remember when we're looking at these numbers as well. So we broke up our district priorities, of course, into our overarching themes. So we have academic success. One of our big priorities here, as I mentioned before with that 2 or more ethnicities category, is to increase our capacity for data tracking of our students so that we can get a better picture and see more of the patterns happening with our students K through 12 that are falling in that 2 or more ethnicity category. Also, to continue to integrate OSEUs into all subject areas. We know how much representation matters for our students, and so we continue to do that with every one of our curriculum cycles. We have been through it with the fine arts curriculum, the world languages, and most recently social studies. We're finishing up with middle and high school and integrating those OSEUs into all of those content areas, and so we will continue with math next. And math isn't always an area where people think about representation, but there's actually a lot of really good opportunities in it. And so we'll continue to do that work. And then in addition, we're also working to continue support in reading for our middle school OSO classes. We partnered with the middle school instructional coach for reading and got our OSO teachers trained in the multisyllabic refresher mini lessons to try to do those for our sixth graders and give them a little boost coming in middle school. They also dedicate a little piece of their time to providing their students with culturally relevant texts that they can have some time reading during their OSO classes. When it comes to student well-being, we talked a bit about that, continuing our focus for Indigenous mental health in our high schools and having a counselor at each building that has that as a focus, really tuning into what students' needs are. So talking to students, finding out what those needs are, helping to provide supports for them that way. Continuing to collaborate with our parent committee and the TEDs, potential policy suggestions to support Indigenous students. So the TEDs, if you were not familiar with that term, are the tribal education directors from the 9 tribes across the state. And this will be, I want to say, our 3rd year now that we were invited to collaborate with them. Tribal consultation only legally has to happen with any tribe that's within 50 miles. And for us, that's just Flandreau. But we were invited by the TEDs to have that larger collaboration with all of the tribes across the state. And so we jumped at the opportunity. We try to attend their monthly meetings, get feedback from them. When it comes to our Title VI grant for the last 2 years, we've presented that plan and how those dollars are going to be used to the tribal education directors. And they have been very supportive and very complimentary of the work that we've been doing in the district. And then just thinking about how else we can support student well-being, through possibilities of access to traditional medicines, smudging and how that might be able to work in a school. And then of course the education that comes along with that and professional development for our administrators, our teachers, our ESPs, and our clericals and working with our families. For staff excellence, this is going to be additional professional development in all the different areas that the district has prioritized, MTSS, PBIS, and RTI. I'm also excited to help have the OSO teachers be leaders with restorative practices training. It's grounded in Indigenous philosophy, and it just makes sense for them to be some of the leaders in their buildings when it comes to that and utilizing those restorative practices with our students. And then growing our own language teachers. We have started and are already on the path to growing our own OSO teachers. We have a few in the district that were products of our OSO classes. Now we're looking at helping expand our language teachers. It's a hard to fill needs area, languages of the Ochete Shakawee, as you might be able to imagine. And so we've been talking about how we can support, whether that's through helping assist teachers with paying for some of those credits to help them get that language endorsement and be able to increase the number of teachers we have that are able to teach that content area. And then professional development for administrators and teachers in buildings with changing demographics. As we've redrawn the boundaries in the district and our populations have shifted, we have buildings that are dealing with different populations that weren't necessarily part of their clientele years ago. And so it's a learning curve, right? Anytime something like that happens. And even just where families in our district are moving. I looked at our elementary numbers at the beginning of this year. A building that has historically been 8th or 10th in our district is now our #1 building at elementary for Native American students. So that's a big switch for them, right? Just as a building. And so just thinking about how we can help support them in all of those areas. And let's see, last, community engagement. So we talked a little bit about our different community partners. So this is just increasing our relationship and tribal relations with those tribal education directors, growing our community partnerships. We currently partner with Education Foundation, Promising Futures. Last year, the Sioux Falls Area Community Foundation had a sponsor for 19 star quotes for the honoring for Native students that were in need in our district. St. Mark's Church, Calvary Episcopal Cathedral, the Sioux Valley Optimist Club, Chozani Weshde, South Dakota Urban and Indian Health, Southeast Technical College, USD, Delta Dental Health Connect. Like, we're all about any community partnership that wants to get involved and help support our students. And then thinking how we can use those partnerships and also our own in-district resources to support initiatives like the Renberg Project, or the Southeast Technical College, or I'm sorry, not Southeast Tech, but I'm thinking of, yes, thank you. Yes, and whether they can help get us started on some of the benches and things for out in the building, you know, the raised garden beds, all those kinds of things to help make that dream a reality. And then, of course, always a focus on our family involvement, right? And how we continue to support and create supportive solutions for our students, for our staff, for our families, and help address any of those issues of historical distrust or the intergenerational trauma that we know that our families are dealing with. I think we just really think about that 7-generation concept, right? And how 7 generations before us impacted everything that we do and live with today, and how can we be thinking about the 7 generations coming next, and what we can do to support and change things for them.
That's an excellent theme for public education.
It really is.
We're running, you've covered so
And I'm
much
hearing
great
questions, so we're good.
information. We want to open up for quick questions, but also respectful of our next meeting. My quick question for you is, because you're doing so much great work, and I noticed that you have a grant cycle, and without knowing that, just have you been able to receive the grants that you need to continue your operations?
Yes, we have. One of the things that we were kind of watching for, but which did not come to fruition, thankfully, was that there was a letter put out by the National Department of Education that stated that American Indian, Alaska Native culture and history is not considered any DEI initiative and will not be impacted by any of those changes to grant funding. So as far as we know, our Title VI and JOM grants are secure for the time being.
Excellent. And if there's anybody in the community that would like to give to Indian education, can they reach out to the Area Community Foundation or our Sioux Falls Education Foundation?
Yes, yep, those are the 2 best places to work with, and we work very closely with Allison and with Patrick, so.
Excellent.
To
Anything
tie a
else?
bow on this, last year, as you remember, as we went through the budgetary processes, there was one increase that we had proposed, and that was with the Office of Indian Education and hiring Anna into the position to lead that group. And so we look forward to it. It's always an area that we work hard to continue to meet the needs of the students that are involved in there. We do believe Anna's going to be a great fit in that role and position, so we look forward to many of those things that we can continue to help our Indigenous population, our Native American population to become successful, you know, in our school settings and school systems. So we look forward to that leadership that she has. So, and thank her for that.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay, now we have a moment for us, if any board members have anything they would like to report out from their committee work that they do throughout the month. If you have any quick updates for the good of the whole. Go ahead, Gail.
Our policy committee met yesterday morning. Dr. Nold has changed the format a little bit so that we are in combination with his superintendent's cabinet, which provides more opportunities for more practitioners of our policies to weigh in on them. I have a kind of a list of what we accomplished yesterday. I gave you all copies of it, so I will not spend time going through all those.
I'm working with the Howard Wood Committee on some improvements out there at Howard Wood. We're looking into what we can do. So we're just getting started, but we're kind of excited. We've got some things that we're concerned about, safety and, you know, crowd participation and stuff. And it's a great event for the state. And it's a great event for the city of Sioux Falls, and we're proud to be a part of it.
Absolutely. I have a quick update on the Sioux Falls Education Foundation. We are giving out staff appreciation grants. We had a donor come forward that had specific schools in mind. So those grants are being awarded. We have first-time teacher grants being awarded. Ms. Marcella LeBeau, we were there for the luncheon. That was provided by the Sioux Falls Education Foundation. We have the Replenish the Room grants, and so that's just a quick update. If you'd like more information, I'll provide that later.
I had my accessible housing advisory committee this morning, and they wanted to be sure that we knew about this live map that's going to be going on their website to showcase any rehabilitation project or anything that supported accessible housing within the last 5 years will now be on their website to gain more information and insight to what the city is doing to help people who are houseless or on the verge of houselessness. The other thing they wanted us to be mindful of as a board is that the South Dakota CARES program is going to impact people who apply for housing utility and rent assistance, and they anticipate seeing an influx of issues of people becoming houseless because they don't have that support anymore. So they were very happy to learn about our liaison program that we just heard about last month, and want to make sure that they're aware of this trickling down, and they'll probably have a lot more calls coming in about those issues coming up. So more on that.
I don't have to have a motion to adjourn. I guess it's just our work session. Anything else for the good of the whole? All right. Thank you.